Good morning, everyone. So in the last session, we discussed about the method overloading concepts as well as the constructor overloading we identified here. So today we are going to discuss one of the important concept to call Java is a call by value or call by reference here. So yesterday we are discussing this example. So middle, so we don't have a power, so that's the reason we could not continue the class. So now if you observe carefully what I'm doing here, this is a simple example I created, call by value. The call by value, what is doing internally? Cutting the pen. So what exactly it is doing internally? So if you see, we come up with the one method that is called math method, and we have a two parameters. We have a two parameters. What are the two parameters we are having? That is called int comma into j. So he's expecting interrelated information, and we are trying to do some multiplication on this. So if you see, whatever the variable we are having here, on top of this particular variable only, we are updating the value. Right. Now you can see I is equals to I multiplied 2 and j is equals to j divided 2. Okay. So j divided by 2. Now what we need to understand here, so whatever the value we are going to get, based on this value, we are multiplying and we are dividing. So it's nothing but we are trying to update the value. Whatever the updated value is going to affected into this particular location or not, that we need to understand here. And here what we are doing is we are trying to create one object called call by value, and I'm initializing the value a as a 15, b as a 20. Now if you see, so I'm passing a comma b. I'm trying to pass here a comma b. This a comma b, now what happens internally? It's going to pass as a I comma j. Getting the point? This a comma b is going to point as a I comma j, and internally it is going to multiply this. But here, once it is multiplied here, I'm trying to print this value a and b, whether these values are going to affected or not. Okay, so that we need to understand. So here I'm trying to put a breakpoint here, and now I'm running in the debug mode. Now you should see, so these are all the two important sections we need to understand here. First here, the variable section is important here. So how this particular values are updating here, we need to understand carefully. Now you can see it's a call by value. Okay, object is created here. Now if you observe this particular object here, where it is available, this is the reference path here. And now later, now what I'm doing is I'm trying to initializing the value, a value 15 and b value 20. Getting the point? A value 15 and b value 20. Getting the? So this is important here. But now later, what I'm doing is I'm calling this method. I'm calling this particular method here. So before going to call, I'm printing the value. So these are all the 15 and 20, and I'm calling this particular method. Now if you observe, whenever I'm calling, the a and b values are modified into I and j. Now you can see I value 15 and j value 20. Now, so if you observe carefully, there is no relation between a comma b with I comma j. Getting the point? So here what we are doing here, so here we come up with a into data type. We have a two variables. So this method also is expecting same data type here. The variable we define I comma j, and these two are the not same here. So this stack memory is different and this particular stack memory is different. If you observe, now wherever we are available, the cursor here, it is pointing to the I and j. And now if I'm going to this, here I'm going to see I and b. Because now we are inside this particular stack memory. Now if I'm going to click this line number 5, so it is moving into the another stack memory. Getting the point? This is important here. Now if we observe carefully, we are updating the value. I value 30 and j value 10. Getting the point? I value, it's become 30 value, and j now it has become 10. So whenever I'm coming back to the line number 15, because the line number 30 now it is calling. The line number 30 now it's calling. So if you see, if I'm going to see the a and b values, still 15 and 20 only. Why it is not updated? There is no relation between a comma with I comma j. Getting the point? So this is not the relation we have between the A and B, I and J. Okay. Whenever I'm coming back to the math method, now if you see what is the values are printing, 59 to 20 only. Why these values are not printing here? Whatever the updated value, the 30 and 10, why the latest values are not printing? This is important because this is the different stack memory we are calling, and this is this whatever the method is executing. So the execution is different. This particular execution is different here. So whenever we are having this particular execution, now we cannot update the value. If you are going to update the value in the parent location, the values are not going to updated here. That we need to understand here. So this section we are going to call it as a call by value. So call by value basically, so whenever we are trying to pass an argument into this particular formal parameter here, so the values are not going to updated here. Getting the point? Basically, the call by value is this approach is going to copy the value for an argument into the formal parameter here. This is important. We need to understand. So if you see here, we are passing, like we are copying this particular value. A and B, what is doing here? It is trying to copy the value and into this particular parameter. So just is going to copy the value, but it is not copying the reference here. It is important here. Once it is copying this particular reference where this particular value is stored, then if you update something, it will affect it into this particular location. But here what we are doing is, we are copying the value. So whatever the value we define here, just we are going to copy one value into this particular method, and with the help of this particular copy value, we are doing this particular operations here. Right. So this particular of the value, like once the value is modified here, the values are not going to affected here. The values are not going to affected into this particular A and B here. This we need to understand. Okay. So now we'll see the call by reference example. Getting the point? Call by references. So how this particular call by reference is going to work? So here only, instead of doing this, we'll come up with a one more class. Here, now what I'm doing here, call by reference I'm printing. Okay, so here only I'm going to use a main method inside the same class here. Now, if we observe carefully inside this particular call by references, same variable I'm trying to define. Int a comma b I'm defining. Okay, so once we define this a comma b, and later what we will do, we'll come up with the one constructor. We'll come up with the particular constructor to initialize this particular values here. So int I comma j, and here a is equals to high and b is equals to j. Okay, so this is I'm initializing the value from the local value into instance variable, and later now what I'm doing here. So whatever the method we used here, the same method I'm going to use. But here now what I'm doing is, I am going to pass object as a parameter. Here I'm not passing the instance variable. This is important, we need to understand. So what is an object we can pass here? Something like call by reference. So CBR. Getting the point? Here I'm trying to pass the object here. So see the carefully the difference between call by value and call by references, how it is going to work. Now if we observe, so CBR dot, what we can understand here? Here. And here, now I'm trying to multiply with the 2. Okay. And so another one, CBR dot B divided by is equals to 2. Whatever we implemented here, if we go to this call by value, now what we are doing is, so I multiply 2, so j divided by 2. And same here, I multiply 2 instead of I, whatever the variable we are having here, a comma b. First one I'm trying to multiply, and second one I'm trying to divide here. Getting the point? First one I'm trying to multiply here, and second one I'm dividing this particular values here. This is very important. We need to understand here. Okay. So once we update this, whether it is going to affect it into the below equation or not, that we need to understand here. Okay. And now I'm creating an object here. So here also I'm going to use CBR, and now this is an object here. What is the value we can pass here? The same value I'm giving, 15 comma 20. Whatever the value we given for the call by value, the same value I'm giving here. And once we pass this particular value, now what we can do? So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to copy this messages here, and we'll print the same here. This method is expecting object here. Now we'll pass CBR. Okay. So now I'm passing this particular CBR, but here we are expecting a comma b. This a comma b we need to print. How we can print this particular a comma b? Now understand here, CBR dot a. CBR dot b, and another one CBR dot a, and here CBR dot b. Okay. So now if you observe carefully, so this is the same example what we implemented in the call by value. So I'm copying the same message here. Okay. But now observe carefully. But here we are passing an object reference. Earlier what we pass here, here also we have passed this particular a reference, but here this is not an object. It is a primitive type. Whenever we are passing this particular primitive type, it's going to copy the value, not the references where this value is available. Okay, even though you are providing the a comma b, but internally what is doing here, it is trying to copy the value of this particular a and b. So that we need to understand very carefully here. Okay, so now you can see call by reference we are passing this. So whenever I'm trying to run this example, now observe the output here. Now observe this particular output here. What happening here? So earlier we provided the 15 and 20. So once this particular operation is completed, now it is modified the value. So why it is modified the value? Because we are doing something inside the method, but we are calling the line number 17. After the line number 7, we are printing this particular CBR. It is a current object here. It's a current object we are passing, like we are trying to get the values. But here the values are updating here. Here the particular values are updating. But what about now here? This particular values are not updating here, because of here we are not passing the reference variable. Just we are passing the primitive type value here. Okay, so this is only the difference. If I'm going to put a breakpoint here, now if I'm running in the debug mode, observe carefully. So we need to check the variable section. So coming back to the object creation, this is the CBR we are creating, and this is the way the object is created. If I'm trying to expand this, what is the value we are having? A value 15 and B value 20. How the values are initialized here? Because what we are doing here, we are calling the parameterized constructor. Getting the point? We are calling parameterized constructor. The values are updated here, 59 to 20. So once it is updated, so now we are printing this. Okay, you need to understand this path here. This path is important. Whatever the path we are having right now, now what I will do, so here I'm going to paste this particular path. I'm pasting this particular path to understand how it is going to work here. Okay, now let's see, I'm moving into the second section. Now we are calling the method. The values we are able to see 15 comma 20. Now I'm calling this particular method. Let me move inside this particular method. Now what we need to understand here, what is the CBR here and what is this? Getting the point? So don't confuse you. CBR is this is the parameter. Getting the point? CBR is a parameter whatever we are passing to this particular method. And what is this? This is the current object. Now you can see inside the current object we are having A and B 15 and 20, and this is the CBR. So if you see the reference is important here. You can compare this reference is same or not. Here you can see call by reference at the rate 1F36E637. 1F36E637. So the reference is same. Whatever the reference we are having, this particular variable and whatever the object we created, the line number 15, both are having same. Both are same here. Why both are same? Because here what we are doing here, we are passing this particular same object. We are passing this particular same object here. So whenever we are passing this particular same object here, now what happens here? When you update something, because if you see, so how we can explain? Let me this one. This is the heap memory. Okay. So A value we are having 15 and B value we are having 20. But now this is the CBR is calling and this is the CBR also calling. Getting the point? So wherever we are creating this particular CBR and wherever we are passing this particular CBR, both are having the same reference. Same reference is nothing but both are pointing to the same object here. So if you see, if the both are pointing to same object, if you modify with some location, it will affect it into the another location. So that we already identified here. That we already identified in the previous example. Now observe carefully. Now what we are doing is, so here we are going to update the value. So CBR.A equals to 2. Now it is updated with 30. And this particular value, now it is updated with 10. Now, so we'll hold some time here. Now what I will do, I will go back to the wherever this particular method is calling. I'm going back to the wherever this particular method. So the current cursor is line number 12. So just I'm going to the line number 17. Here, now I'm coming back to the line number 17. Now if I'm going to expand this particular CBR. Now see, so the values are updated here. Getting the point? So still the current cursor is at the line number 12 here. The current cursor is line number 12. So just we are checking here from where this method is called. From where this method is called here, that we are moving into the path of the location where this particular method is called. So this is the location the method is called. If I'm going to expand this particular CBR, the values are updated. Earlier, what are all the values we are having? 15 and 20. But now the values are updated here. How the values are updated? Because both are pointing to the same reference here. Getting the point? Both are pointing to the same references. This is important. We need to understand here. Okay. So this section we'll call it as a call by reference here. If I'm coming back to the line number 18, that the values are printing. The whatever the values are affected, the same values are printing here. Okay. So any questions? Any questions on the call by value as well as call by reference here?
Excuse me, sir. I have one question.
Okay.
So, whenever like online, whenever you are using the same reference, it's like CBR, we are using on line number 9 and line number 15. So we can use same. My understanding, I'm telling you. Am I right? Please tell me. So whenever we are updating value, only that scenario we can use the same reference value. Am I right?
See, not updating here. So basically, whenever you are passing the method, because it is this particular method is expecting object as a parameter, not any primitive type values here. So instead of whenever it is expecting object here, we are not going to pass this particular type here. We will pass where this object is resides here, because we are using with help of this particular new, we are calling this particular constructor to create an object. Now the object is created, but the object in the which variable we are holding here, that is called this particular CBR. Okay, the same CBR we are able to pass here. So we are not going to pass the type here, but where objects are available, that we are going to pass. So whenever we are passing here, internally, this is the location where these objects are resides here. Okay, we can understand this is the reference here. Now, the same reference is going to initialize into this particular CBR. Getting the point? Whatever the reference we are passing here, that we are going to store into this particular same CBR, and with the help of CBR, we are updating it. Because here also we are having the same reference, and here also we are having the same reference. Whenever we are having both references same, now the value will affected into the all the locations. How many locations we are using same reference? But if you see here, even though you are passing this particular a comma b contains here 15 comma 20 value, but this is not the objected value. This is the primitive type. So whenever we are trying to work with the primitive type, we are going to pass a copy of the value, not the original value we are passing here. So this is we need to understand here. So just we are copying the value of this a comma b, and the same value is going to initialize into this. So whenever it is initializing here, the path is different here. So this particular path is different, and here whatever the I comma j we are having, this particular path is different. So because of this particular paths are different here, even if we modify something, it is not affected into this particular a comma b. Okay, so here we are having the same path, even though the reference name, if you modify something. Getting the point? So if you modify something also, the name of the reference, whatever you are interested, you can make it. But whenever we are calling the line number 17, the reference is going to initialize into this particular CBR1. Okay, don't confuse it. The namings we come up with the same. You can make anything. You can come up with a test also. Whatever the name we want to interested, we can make. But only the problem here, the reference will play important role here, not the naming convention. If I'm going to run this same example one more time, now you can see the values are updated here. Okay, so any questions?
No, sir, I'm good.
Okay, now so this is one of the important information, because if anyone asking what, so Java is a call by value or call by reference. So what is the answer we need to give? In like at the primitive type level, Java is a call by value. At the object level, Java is a call by reference here. Getting the point? Based on the reference only, we are updating, or we can delete something, we can modify something, whatever we want to do, we can do anything with help of this particular call by reference. But whatever the call by value, that contain the unique values here. So it's not going to modify whenever you are trying to modify with the another locations here. Okay, that we need to understand here. And let's move with another example, how we can return the objects here. So earlier, we all understand here how we can come up with returning the primitive type value. Now we are going to understand how we can return the objects. How we can return the objects. So this is important. Okay, let's understand the simple example how we can return here. Now what I'm doing here, so what I will do here only, I'm going to call. Okay, now observe carefully. So I'm passing this particular. Okay, what we can do, I'm going to modify something on the same example. I'm removing this. Here, so this is the another object I'm creating inside this particular method, and the same object I will return here. the same object I am going to return here. Now if you see what is the return type we can make here, this is important here. Getting the point. So what is the return type we can make here? So first we need to check what is the value we are trying to return. Now you can see what is the value we are returning here, call by reference here, because internally we are creating one object here, the same reference we are returning here, the particular same reference here. So in that case, so we need to come up with the particular type here, whatever the type we are having here, the same type we need to use. Now observe carefully. Now observe, so this is the way we are going to call the method, and internally it will create an object here, and whatever the references we are holding, the particular current object, the reference we are returning here. And here, okay, so this is the particular method is going to return here. Now, what is the return type we are having here? This method is returning call by reference here. This is very important here because the type we provided as a call by reference. Now this CBR1 and is going to match with this particular call by reference here, because here we are returning the reference, not any values here. So if you want to return the value, if you see, this is the way you can return the value, CBR1 dot A. Now what is the value we are returning here? A value. But here what is the type we are making? So object type. But here what is expecting here? If you see, it is expecting int. Now you can see here we are whatever the error we are getting, the error is result. But here we are getting, because the type, the return type is difference here. Getting the point? This is important here. So based on our requirement, we can return the value. Either you can come up with a variable return type, or if you want to return the object type. So based on our requirement, we can make the appropriate return type here. Okay. Now, so I'm trying to return object as a return type. So whenever we are returning object as a return type, now what we need to understand? First, we need to understand this particular call by reference here. And internally, the call by reference is CBR1. We are creating an object, and the same object we are returning here. And here, with the help of this particular CBR, the call by reference here, you can print the value. You can print this particular value. So just focus on the values, not the whatever the message we implemented here. Just focus on the values here. First one we are passing 15, 20. Second one we are calling, we are getting like a 45, 78. From where we are getting the 45 and 78? Because internally inside this particular method, we are creating an object. We are passing like we are returning the current object reference, and the current object reference we are trying to hold into the one more variable that is called call by reference here. And from the call by reference here, we are printing the A and B values here. We are printing A and B values. Now, so if you understand more, what we can do, we'll print the call by reference, we'll print this particular references here. So CBR1. And here, now if you say this CBR1 I'm printing and call by reference I'm printing. So we are going to understand whether these two are having the same object reference or not. Now you see, after 15 and 20, this is after 15 and 20, internally we are calling this particular method. Whenever we are calling this particular method, we are creating an object here and we are printing the reference. So this is the object we are printing. And after this, so we are printing this particular A comma B values, and this is the A comma B values, and finally we are printing this particular call by reference. Now compare here. Both are having same reference or not? 71 DAC 704. So here also we are having same. Now what you understand here? So here, this is not a new object. It is a same object what we created here. It's the same object what we created here. And what we need to understand here basically, here, whenever we are calling this, it is returning this particular CBR1. The CBR1 we are holding into this particular call by reference variable. Getting the point? This is important here. Okay, how we are returning these objects? This is the way we are going to return the object information here. Okay, any questions? Okay, so if you don't,
So can't we on line number 18? So this first call by reference is the type, and the second one is the variable. So it, like in if can't we write the like direct same name CBR1?
you can write also, no problem. See, I'm explaining this. You can make any name here. Reference variable name is you can make anything other than the keywords. Getting the point? You can copy the CBR1 also. Nothing will happen here. So this I'm explaining from the beginning onwards. So the variable names we can make anything other than this particular keywords here. So you can see same value 4578 and this is the object reference. Okay, so it's clear. Okay, now, so what we need to understand here, we are going to understand the one more example that is important here, recursion. How this particular recursion is going to work. Basically, Java supports a recursion here. So recursion is a process here. It's going to define something. It's going to define something by calling the itself here. Getting the point? So basically, what we need to understand here, whenever we want to write any recursion related information, so we are going to call the same method for multiple times here. The same method, it's going to call itself here because we are not calling from the outside of this particular method here. So first time only we are going to call the method from the outside, and later the same method internally it is going to call here. Internally it is going to call. So now if you observe the simple example how it is going to call. So now I'm going to write one factorial related example here. Okay, here I'm defining one factorial related example. Now you can see I come up with a class called factorial, and now this is the method I'm trying to write here, and it is expecting one parameter. So you can make anything, the particular name of the variable name. You can come up with the ABC, something your name or test, some whatever you are interested. What is the variable name I'm defining? That is called n. And after defining this, now what I'm doing here, I'm come up with the one variable here. The int result I'm trying to declare. So into result I'm trying to declaring it. Once I declare this, now what I will do, here I'm going to come up with this particular if n equals to 1. If this particular n equals to 1, now what I'm doing here, I'm trying to return one value. I'm trying to return one value. So if this particular n, if it is not equals to 1, now what I'm doing here, I'm going to call the same method. I'm going to call the same method with n minus 1. With n minus 1 I'm calling. Getting the point? So which method I'm calling here? This is important. Fact method I'm calling. Getting the point? The fact method I'm calling, I'm passing the value n minus 1, and later I'm trying to multiply this particular n. Why I'm multiplying this particular n? Because I want to get the factorial value. I want to get the factorial value. So what exactly the factorial value it contains here, that we will see. And now you can see whatever the result I'm going to get, the result I'm trying to store into this particular result. And finally, I'm returning this result. Okay. For example, if I'm going to pass this particular 3 as a factorial, if I'm going to pass factorial as a 3, how it is going to work? This is the way 1 into 2 into, sorry, not 1 into 2 into 3. Getting the point? This is the factorial, or directly what we can call 6. Getting the point? So how we are going to get this structure here? How we are going to get this particular structure? That is important. That section of code we are writing using this particular recursion. Recursion is nothing but here if you see fact method. Which fact method we are calling again? This is only the fact method we are calling. For the first time, what we will do, we will create an object here. For the first time, what we will do, we'll create an object where we are going to create inside the main method. So once we create the main method, we are going to call from the main method. From the second time onwards, this method will call here. Again, it is not going to call from the main method. Again, it is not going to call from the main method here. So this is important, we need to understand here. Getting the point? This is important, we need to understand very carefully. Okay, so we'll see how this particular factorial is going to work. Now I'm moving into the main method and we'll create an object. So what is an object we need to create here? That is called factorial. So f is equals to, so new factorial I'm passing it, and f dot fact. So what is the value I want to provide? I'm giving as a 3. Okay, I just want to confirm that the fact of this particular 3, what is the factorial of this particular 3, I want to find out. So carefully observe, this is very important example. If you understand this example, you can write the multiple recursion related example. Okay, so how this particular recursion is going to work internally, that we need to understand here. Okay, now I will put a breakpoint here. I am running this example. Now if you see, the object is stopped here and we are calling this particular method. So fact method we are calling. Now I am moving inside this particular fact method. Okay, now we are having, what is the n value? You can see the right side variable. So here you can understand this particular section code. Okay, variable section code, so that we'll get to know what is the n value. Now this condition is not satisfying here. Getting the point? So observe carefully, this condition is not satisfying here. Once this particular condition is not satisfied, now what happening internally? It is coming back to the fact method. It is coming back to the fact method. Now understand carefully. So this is the n minus 1. Now the fact become 2. So it's going to call the with the 2 value, but here what is the n value we are having? 3. Okay. So right now, first time it is calling the fact method and n value we are having 3. Okay, so now observe. So what happening this fact method? The fact method internally it is going to call one more time. Now the n value 2. So still it is not satisfied here. Again it is coming back here. Again it is coming back to the fact here. Now so here second time it is calling the n value now 2. N value now 2. Getting the point? So don't confuse it. This is important, we need to understand. So what happening internally? Again we are calling the same fact method. So this is the third time we are calling. Now if I am calling this fact method, observe. Okay, what is the value we are going to get? We are going to get 1. So this particular 1 value, now what happens here? This particular 1 value. So if you see the fact whatever we called here, the result we get as a 1. The result we get as a 1. But what is the n value? What is the n value we are having here? 2. Getting the point? So something, if you see, this is the fact we are calling, the result we are getting as a 1. Now we need to multiply with this 2. We need to multiply this particular 2 because second time. Okay, so second time only we are calling, it is returning here. So just we call the whatever information we have inside this, but it is not multiplied here. Now it's a time to multiply the value. Now it's a time to multiply the value. So the whatever the result we are getting, it is going to multiply this particular value, and whatever the result we are going to get. So now observe. So this is the second time we are multiplying here, and now if you see, now I am moving. Now I am moving this result, but it is not going to return the result. It is not going to return the result here. So what is the result we are having? That is called to. So this particular result, again, it is going to multiply this 3. Why it is going to multiply this 3? Because the fact method, how many times it is called? 3 times it is called here. Getting the point? So if you see, this is important here. One more time it is going to call. Now observe. Now it is calling one more time. Now what is the n value currently? 3. So it is the first time the value we hold with the 3. Second time because the n value is decreased here. And the third time, now what happened here? The n value 1 only. The n value 1. So this is the way we decrease the value. Now what is the result we have earlier? That is called 2. Now this particular 2, this is the whole result. Now it is the time to multiply with the 3. Now it's the time to multiply this particular 3. So if you see, the result we are going to get as a 6 here. The result we are getting as a 6, n value 3. Now the result we are returning. The result we are returning here. So this is very important here. Basically, so I'm going to explain one more time this particular fact here. Here, let me print this particular fact value. Now observe carefully. So one more time trying to call this same example here. Okay. Now the object we are creating, and again we are calling the same method. Now if you see, n value we are having 3. So don't confuse here. The value is not going to modify here. This is very important, we need to understand. N value 3, the fact method we are calling. So observe carefully. So here I am calling fact n minus 1. What is the n minus 1? Right now, so it's going to multiply this particular n. So right now, what is the n we are having? 3. For first time it is calling this fact method. So it's not going to multiply this. When it is going to multiply this, once we are going to get the result of this, getting the point? So once we get this particular result of this section of code, it is going to multiply this. Okay. So for this purpose, we are not going to get the result at the same time, because we are calling one more time n minus 1 with n minus 1 we are calling. So right now I'm pausing, I'm checking here, n equals to 3, n value 3. Once this particular n value 3, I'm calling this. So again we are moving into the one more time. Now observe carefully, this method we are calling. Okay, so we are calling one more time. So this is the second time. Second time we are calling the same fact method, n minus 1. But right now, what is the n value? Right now, what is the n value? We are having 2. Here we can see the n value we are having 2. Okay. So now, what happens internally? This section of code, this particular section of code is not going to satisfy this condition. Now again, it's coming back to this particular factor. Okay. So this is the third time we are calling. We are calling third time. This is important here. The same factor method we are calling. Now observe carefully. So if I'm going to call this particular fact here, Now what is the value? So here we need to specify the 1. Okay, now this condition is satisfying. So once this particular condition is satisfied, here this particular condition is satisfying here. Now what is the value we are going to get? 1. The 1, this section, whatever we are called this entire expression, now it is result 1. Okay, the result 1. Now what happens here? It is going to multiply with this particular n here. Getting the point? So whenever we are calling this particular third time, the result we are getting as a 1, this particular 1 here is going to pass, because from the second only we are calling to this particular third iteration. And here the result 1 multiply n. 1 multiply n. What is the n value we are having here? 2. What is the n value we are having? 2. Now its value become 2. This value we are storing into this particular result. This value we are going to store into this particular result. Again, still it is pending here. Still this section is pending. Only we call this particular method, but we did not multiply this particular value. When we are going to multiply, whenever we are going to get the result of this particular fact n minus 1. But still we are inside this particular fact n minus 1 here. Here we are the fact we are having here. Okay. Now what we will do? So we'll go to this place. When we are going to get this particular place, right now we are here. The result we are going to get as a 2. The result we are going to get as a 2. Now observe carefully. Okay. So the result you can see. Here you can see the result. We are having the 2 value. So once the result is we are getting, now again it's going back to this particular location. Now we are inside this. So what happening here? What is the result we are having? 2. So now it's going to multiply with n. What is the n we are having? The n we are having 3. N we are having 3. So now 2 multiply 3. Whatever we are going to get, that we are going to get as a result here. That we are going to get as a result. So now you can see the result we are getting. So here you can see the result here, 6. Okay. Here you can see the result is 6. So any questions? Any questions on this particular recursion? So observe the same recursion example we are going to pass one more time. We'll see how this particular recursion is going to work. So one more example, I'm trying to use this particular same recursion here. Let me go to this. One more class I'm trying to define, something like a recursion example. Okay, so recursion 1. Recursion 1 I'm trying to write here, and the main method I'm defining. Now observe. Okay, so this is important here. Now what we will do, so right now don't worry, this particular static related, we'll discuss the static related in our upcoming classes, but focus more onto the recursive related example. Okay, this is the method I'm defining, and is going to expect as a k value, or we can come with L. Okay, the method I'm defining like this. I'm trying to return this particular return type here. Okay, observe public static int sum. So focus on the method called sum, and is expecting one parameter that is called k. And after this, now what I will do, if this particular k greater than 0, if this particular k, if it is greater than 0, now what I will do, here I am going to write return k plus sum of, sorry, k minus 1. Whatever the positive value we are going to provide, now what I am doing is, I am going to call the sum method and minus 1 value. And here in the else section, now what I will do, here I am going to return 0. So observe, same example, but only what is the difference? Here we come up with the multiplication, but here we are coming with the addition. Here we are coming with the addition. So what you can do, here you can write like this. You can write like this. So first we are going to call the sum, and later we can append with this particular k value. Okay, so we are going to add the observe. How many times this method is going to call? This is important. Here I am going to call this sum method with the value of 10. The sum method with the value of 10 I am calling. And now what we will do? Finally, we'll print this same thing here. So line number 5, I'm putting a breakpoint here. I'm running in the debug mode. Now observe carefully. Now you can see k value 10. If the k value 10, now what we are doing is, this condition is going to satisfy. K value is the bigger value compared to this particular 0. So what I'm doing here? Now what I'm doing here? Again I'm calling the method. Okay. So now observe, this method 1 to 10 times you are going to call. Which method is going to call? Sum method. The sum method is going to call. But every time what happening internally? The k value is decreasing here. The k value is decreasing. Okay, so here we are having k value 10 and k value 9, k value 8, k value 7, like k value 6. This is the way the values are going to decrease here. This is the way the values are going to decrease here. But finally what happened here? Whatever the result we are going to get from this particular result here, from this particular result, again it is going to add all the values here. Again it is going to add this particular values. Okay, so now observe carefully. So now what happening internally? It's going to call the method. So now count the method, how many times it is calling. So this is the second time it's calling. Second time it is calling, and now it is calling third time. Okay, now you can see the k value 8. Okay, now it is calling fourth time. So k value 7. Now it is calling the fifth time. Fifth time it is calling. Now you can see here the left side section. So these are all the debug pointers. So how many times this method is calling here? It is providing here. Now you can see first time we are calling from the sum. From the main method, this is the main method, and we call from the sum method. That time the k value we are having 10, and again we are calling the sum method, k value 9. Again we are calling the same sum method, k value 8, and we are calling the one more time 7, and now one more time 6 here. Okay, now observe the k values, now it is decreasing here. Getting the point? The k value is decreasing now. Okay, so now observe, one more time I'm calling. So one more time it will call, and one more time it will call. How many times it will call here? So up to the 0. So still the k value 2. Okay, now the k value 1, and now else statement is satisfied, because what is the k value? 0. The k value 0. Here you can see the k value 0. So once the k value is 0, it's moving into this particular return statement here. Okay, it's moving into the return statement. So once it is written here, so you can see this. Now this it's going to decrease now. This is going to decrease. Why it is going to decrease here? Because this method now it is returning the values here. Now this particular method is going to return the value. From 0, it's going to, this method now it is returning 0, 0 plus 1. Okay, if you say k value 1, 0 plus 1. So what is the value we are going to get? Something like a 1. So observe. Now it is coming back to the same. So you can count this. You can count the left side sections here. Every time it is going to decrease. Now, if I am going to click on the F6, so again it is calling. Now you can see again it is calling. Again it is calling. Again it is calling. Okay. So now if you see last time, this is the last time here. It's printing the value. What is the value we are getting? 55. What is the value we are getting? 55 here. So this is the way the factorial is going to work internally. This is very important. We need to understand the factorial example. Okay. To understand more here, it's going to look like this. Observe carefully. This is an output I want to show you. Every time, whenever the sum method, the factorial method will call internally. So it's a way it's printing like this. First time we are having 10, 10 plus sum of 9, 10 plus 9 plus sum of 8, 10 plus 9 plus 8 plus sum of 7, and it's keep on continuing until this particular sum 0. Sum 0. So this is the factorial sum method is calling internally. Okay. So any questions? Okay, so if you don't have anything, so tomorrow we'll continue access controller. This is the one of the important example we are going to discuss in the tomorrow session.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.